guys, and welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to be looking into today is it's just awful. It really is awful. It happened around Christmas time. Normally I'd put this in a Christmas video, but you know, it was suggested to me, so here we are. Doesn't really matter when it happens, to be honest. But it is the solved murder of Patricia Burns, and like I said, this one it's just awful. It's left a lot of scars on her family and a lot of people around it, and it's just so sad. You will see if you haven't already heard of it. This case was just by Ruby, so thank you for that. I appreciate any suggestions you guys have, and of course if you have any more, please do let me know. So Patricia Burns lived in Lutheran Lake in New York, and she was very much a woman who was full of life, full of energy. She had this, I don't know, this passion for life. Like, I've seen videos of her dancing in her kitchen with her children, you know, just impromptu dance bouts. That's how much she had fun and loved life and just enjoyed every second of it. Now, Patricia had initially, before she met this man, which we'll talk a little bit about in a minute, she had 2 daughters. She was working in a place called Dunkin' Donuts. Now, she had a history of not finding the best man. Like, the relationships between them was really not good. She ended up with one man who basically hit her and abused her, and then he fired a gun into the ceiling or something like that, and he was arrested as a part of that, but that was like one of her boyfriends. And then she ends up meeting this other man who would be her future husband. She ended up marrying him. He was called Clifford Burns. Now, he would come around the Dunkin' Donuts drive-thru like every day, and then eventually he did ask her out. He seemed like a really nice guy. They really got on. He got on with her daughters, you know, who would become his stepdaughters. He owned his own business. He loved fishing. He just seemed like a genuinely nice guy, like they all do initially. So they began their relationship, and then they ended up getting married in 1997, and this is when he just pretty much changed like straight after. Like, again, I've said it before, if you're going to be in an abusive relationship, which nobody wants to be in, but if the person who is going to be doing the abusing gets with someone, they're not going to be abusing them straight away. It's going to take a bit of time, and that's what happened here. You know, he got her to like him, to love him, they got married, started family together, and then he began abusing her. So they did end up having 2 children together, Autumn and Harley, to go with the 2 daughters that she already had, which was Crystalline and Megan, who, you know, were the daughters that she already had, who would become Cliff's stepdaughters. So then they ended up being like this family of 4. And Cliff was being violent towards her, physically violent towards her, you know. And it wasn't all bad. They would have really nice Christmases together. They would enjoy family holidays together, but then in between that, he would be aggressive and violent towards her, and he would abuse her. So it was just not a good situation to be in. And Cliff had apparently, well, not apparently, he had seen domestic abuse in his own life when he was a child. I believe his father did it to his mother, ended up like shooting her in the arm. I mean, she survived, luckily, but that's what he grew up witnessing. And then sadly, he decided that is how he would also do the same. He would abuse Patricia, which is just so devastating, because she ended up with one guy who was abusive towards her, and then the next guy she ends up with is also abusive towards her. So this family was really on the edge. Like, their marriage was really rocky. Of course it would be, you know, he's abusing her. And then tragedy struck the family when Crystalline, who was 15 years old at the time, actually passed away in her sleep. Like, she literally went to bed and then just never woke up again. They had 2 autopsies done on her. They could not find out what happened to her. It was just inconclusive. So obviously that absolutely devastated the entire family. Patricia was absolutely heartbroken, and her family has said that they believe that is what gave her the sort of boost to finally see Cliff for what he was. Like, she'd give him so many chances. He would make all these promises time and time again. He'd be kicked out, he'd come back for 2 weeks, he'd be the best dad in the world, and then he would just slip back into abusing her again. So she was just fed up and she'd had enough. And I think losing her daughter in such a tragic and horrific way made her realise that life can just be taken away at any given moment. And for reasons even unknown, like her daughter just passing away in her sleep, devastated. Oh, I can't even imagine what she went through. But that did give her the oomph to leave Cliff. Like, she was getting abused. Her marriage was falling apart. It was not a good place to be in, not for her, not for her children. And so that is what is believed made her leave. Like, she gets one life and nobody deserves it, but she doesn't deserve to be abused. She deserves to be happy. So that was what she did. She decided that she was going to leave him. And after 15 years of constant abuse, she was finally standing up to Cliff and she basically wanted a divorce. She ended up getting a restraining order against him, which I don't blame her for. He was a very angry and very aggressive man. You will find out just mind-blowingly Jekyll and Hyde, like at the freaking click of a finger. But she ended up moving out into her own apartment. And one of the daughters decided that she wanted to stay with the dad, which was Harley. Autumn was the youngest and she stayed with Patricia, with her mum, and Megan, I believe, who was the eldest at that point, was also living with the mum. I don't know, Harley just wanted to be with her dad, and he never had shown any abuse towards the kids or anything like that. It'd always been towards Patricia, so she didn't think that her daughter was in danger from him in that sense. Otherwise, she probably wouldn't have let her stay with him. But, you know, the months went by, and Harley said that every time that Patricia was brought up, like in conversation or he talked about her, he would get really angry and then he would take out his frustrations on her. So, you know, because Patricia wasn't there for him to take his frustrations out on, he began doing it on his daughter. And that's when Harley eventually decided, I believe she lived with him for like 7 months, something like that. She decided that she obviously wanted to go and live with her mum, so she did so to get out of his toxicity. He was a very angry man. So Patricia found herself at the age of 42 with, like, her now 3 daughters. Megan was 22, Harley was 16, and Autumn was 14 at that point. And she was just making a go of a new life for the family. And at this point, Christmas was approaching, so they were getting prepared for that, you know, just really excited to celebrate Christmas. A very quiet Christmas for once, like without Cliff being there and, you know, obviously her being abused and things like that. So they were just really looking forward to it. And I believe that none of the girls were in touch with their father before that, but then Autumn decides to sort of extend an olive branch, I guess, to her dad, because it's her dad and they do love him, despite him being like horrible, and it's such a hard situation to be in because you just do. They're your dad at the end of the day, you do love them. So anyway, she messages him saying that she just wanted to say that she loved him and wish him a Merry Christmas, and then he replies with a very strange text message that basically scared pretty much everyone. Well, sort of. He said that he had a very special gift coming soon for everyone and that it would not be delivered by car but by foot. He then went on to say, I hope all your friends are there to see it, especially Harley. And at that point, like I said, he was probably pretty angry. So there was probably a lot of, I don't know, like bad juju between them at that point. And that was on the 22nd of December. He literally sent that text message to his youngest daughter, and it freaked her out. Megan immediately read it and was like, oh my god. She showed it to Patricia, who was like defrosting the ham ready for Christmas. And she basically said to her like, oh my god, Mum, do you think he's going to come and kill us? And Patricia was like, no, he's evil. He's mean, but he's not that evil, kind of thing. So she knew that he was abusive and aggressive and just not a very nice person, but she'd never ever for one split second thought that he was ever capable of anything like that. So I think at that point they just assumed that his gift to them would be beating up Patricia like he did all the time, not to actually go in and try and kill him. So one of the daughters ends up replying saying that, get it together, I know what you're thinking about doing, or I know what you think you want to do, And believe me, that won't end well. The only reason you feel so bad is because of what happened to your parents and the fact that you never got time to grieve. And like I said, they kind of left it at that and was just... It probably would have niggled in their mind and they probably would have been worried about it, but not overly concerned because they just didn't think that he was ever capable of anything more, sort of thing. So Patricia would carry on getting ready for Christmas with the girls. And then Harley decides that she needed to go out and do this last minute shopping. So off she goes with her friends to town. She's out with the picture. She's gone doing some shopping. That left Patricia at home with Autumn and Megan. So she was busily preparing the dinner and things ready for Christmas. It was like Christmas Eve at this point, so they were readily preparing everything. You know, getting ready to enjoy their Christmas together as a family. And this is when they receive a knock at the door. Then the door just swings right open and in comes a person dressed fully in camo gear with a mask on. All you can see is like the slits of the eyes kind of thing. And they head straight towards Patricia and pin her up against the wall. And obviously she's screaming and shouting and trying to fight back. Megan goes up, tries helping her mum. She's kicking this person, punching him, trying to drag him off. Again, she's only 22 at the time. This guy's a big guy. Well, he's the guy, you'll find out. So anyway, she ends up pulling the mask down and reveals that it's actually Cliff, her stepdad. He is the one doing this. And she didn't even see that he had a knife at the time. And he had this massive hunting knife. And he was attacking Patricia. He ended up attacking Megan with it too. She didn't realise at the time straight away. She's just trying to get him off her mum, obviously. Autumn was only 14 and she's bearing witness to all this. She rings the police, she's screaming down the phone. Honestly, the audio for it is just absolutely heartbreaking. It really got me, like, really teared up. It is just so sad. Oh, actually, sorry, Megan told Autumn to call the police and then she did. And then you've got Megan who's fighting him off and she actually gets stabbed in the arm to the point where it touches her bone. But he just keeps slashing at both of them and they're just both fighting. Megan's trying her best to get him off her mum while Autumn's screaming down the phone for the authorities to get there as quick as they can. This is when sort of Megan said she heard her mother's voice in her head and what her mother would be saying to her if she could. And that would be to go and get help. So Megan runs out of there. She tried to get him off. She couldn't. You know, it's not like she didn't try her hardest to do that. She didn't just see him and run and try and get help. And you know what I mean? She really tried to get him off her. She could not do it. So the next option, she legged it out of that house and she was going to try and get some help. She was going to try and find somebody that could maybe get him off her. So she goes outside. It had been snowing. And she ends up getting stuck in the snowbank. Sort of between that and the car. She tries jumping over it and gets literally stuck in it. And then this is when Cliff comes out. He'd followed her. And she's really thinking at this point that, you know, he's going to stab her. And she remembers saying to him, like, why, Cliff, why? But then, luckily for Megan, some people had heard all of the screaming and things in a local bar or restaurant, something like that, I believe. And they ended up coming out to find out what on earth is going on. And that actually spooks Cliff, and he legs it. So Megan really does believe that that is what saved her life, that he would have stabbed her too if those people had not come out and basically scared him. So that was really lucky because then Megan was able to free herself and go back inside to the horrific scene, which was absolutely awful because Patricia at that point, she was bleeding out on the floor. Megan actually told her sister Autumn to tell her mum that she loved her and really urged her to do so, and Autumn was like, no, she's strong, she's fine, she's going to be okay, she can get through this. And Megan knew at that point that her mother probably wouldn't make it. So she wanted her sister to tell her that she loved her, which just it's absolutely devastating. That just completely breaks my heart. Obviously, police were contacted. They rushed on in. They rushed Patricia and Megan to the hospital. Sadly, you know, nothing could be done for Patricia. She had too many wounds. She lost too much blood and she passed away on the 24th of December in 2013. Megan was rushed in to have like surgery on her arm. Again, it touched the bone. It was that deep. She had like this massive slash. So doctors were working on that. And at this point, Don't forget that Harley isn't even here. She is away with her friends, doing shopping, living her best life, not knowing what's going on. She ends up seeing these posts on Facebook that are asking, like Autumn, I believe, like, why are there cops outside your house? What's going on? So she's thinking, what the heck? So she ends up ringing home, getting in touch, and finds out sort of what happened. Not the full extent of it, but enough. So she ends up getting there and seeing a family being wheeled through the doors full of blood, and just absolutely horrific. So she's wondering what on earth's going on. And Autumn, that is, I believe, Autumn, I don't know which one told her, but they told her basically the extent of it, that Patricia had sadly died, that Cliff had killed her, and you know that you probably didn't want to see her in that state, but Harley really wanted to see her mum. She just wanted to feel the warmth of her and hold her hand. I'm not entirely sure whether she actually went in to see her, but she wanted to, so maybe she did, I don't know. But it's just heartbreaking. She didn't even know fully what was going on. She was just out enjoying herself while her family were going through that at home. She didn't know. I'm not saying that. I'm just trying to understand how she would have felt, because can you imagine that? Can you imagine your family going through that at home and you being out? Not a clue. Just living a normal life. Apparently, Cliff went on this high-speed chase, I think. But then he just parked up outside the sheriff's office and basically handed himself in. He did this interview, told them what he'd done. He was interviewed for over 5 hours. I mean, the entire thing is on YouTube, and this interview is so strange. Like, probably not watch it all because it's 5 hours long, but some people have. And he's just sat there 1 minute, he's crying, he's talking normally, and then he gets up in such a rage, like, personally, that I've never even seen before, ever. And he will, like, rip the computer up and smack the table and be so infuriated. I have never seen someone that angry, ever.
The woman just couldn't leave me alone. I begged her. I can't call her. She calls up. I said, please leave me alone. I haven't gone near this broad in years. I don't even call her, talk to her, talk to my kids.
Lawyer, he don't help. He called me up today. Says there's the lady from the support guy. She just calls. She put a warrant out for your arrest on Christmas Eve. I just want to see my kid. That's all I'm asking for. I don't know you. Excuse me, Dad. Yeah.
And then he would be calm as a cucumber. He would say horrible things. I mean, it's really weird to watch. Honestly, go watch it. It's just devastating, and it's so strange. Like, I don't know if he was that angry while she was with him. Like, how did she ever put up with that for so long? Wow. Just, it's crazy. That interview that I watched is crazy. He literally is like Jekyll and Hyde. He just, it's like a flip switches. Flip switches? A switch flips, sorry, and he just turns into a different person. And honestly, it's scary, downright frightening. And during that interview as well, he was going in saying that he didn't actually plan on killing her, that he blacked out at the time, and he was known for blacking out as well in fits of rage. That he blacked out and he didn't really know what happened, but his intention wasn't to kill her, was to make her look like the Joker. You know those, I can't remember what they're called. Those smiles that, like, whoosh. That's what he wanted to do to her. Tell me in the comments what the smiles are called, because I don't know what they are. But he wanted to cut her face up to her ear. He was very adamant about how much he wanted to do that, not that he actually wanted to kill her. Not that that's horrific enough, because it is. Anyway, Cliff was charged with second-degree murder. He ended up taking his plea deal as a result of his daughters, but then said that he felt coerced and he wanted to go back on that. I don't know, it was just weird. He never showed any remorse for what he did. He was very teary and crying in the sentencing when he got sentenced, but he didn't show any remorse for what he did, basically. He was sentenced to 23 years to life and was barred from having any contact from Patricia's daughters till the year 2045. As per his criminal record, he remains incarcerated in prison until he is liable for parole in 2036. And I did read that, well, I saw an interview with one of his daughters, Harley, who said that she doesn't think that she could ever forgive him, but she does know that she needs to see him before he dies. So she wants to put closure on it in that sense. Just this case is awful. And the sisters really obviously, they didn't allow this case to break them. They more allowed what happened to their mother to define them. And can you imagine the trauma that Autumn went through? You know, both her sisters were there to support her, and Megan said that if I could take it away, I would. She was like crying. It was so awful because Autumn was 14 and is now probably scarred for life. Just, can you imagine witnessing that? I can't. But yeah, the way that the family came together after it is just so amazing, like how close they are, and Patricia certainly would be proud of them. It's just really sad that she didn't make it and wasn't able to see it for herself. But yeah, that is the end of the case. If you guys have enjoyed the video, give me a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for similar content. Anyway, that's all I have today in the case of Patricia Burns. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.